Hello everyone, my name is Manuel Villalpando and I'm going to talk to you about file formats. File formats defined. A file format is a standard way that information is encoded for storage. It specifies how data should be used by a computer to encode or decode information. File formats may be either proprietary or free. They may also be published or they may be open source. And over to the right here we see many different file formats, but some people confuse these as file extensions, and they are actually file extensions as well. And we shall talk about the differences in just a moment here. So file format versus file extension, what's the difference? According to Livewire, file extensions and file formats are often spoken about interchangeably. In reality, however, a file extension is just a character that appears after the period, while the file format speaks to the way in which the data in the file is organized. In other words, the source file. And if you were to put the period in front of, like, let's take for example the JPEGs .jpg, so here that's what this particular part actually is talking about, the characters that appear after the period. So the question that often comes up, and it's a lot of times it's not really understood, is, are file extensions regulated? Now we're talking about these last three characters, or the last characters that are after the dot, and the short answer is no. And there's a legal case where it involves Autodesk Incorporated versus Dassault Systems SolidWorks Corporation 2009. And if you actually go to the file that is on this link right here, and I will provide all these resources at the end where you can actually go and look up the legal cases, but we'll talk about this a little bit more in depth as we continue forward. But basically, the file extensions, they are not regulated. In other words, if I come up with my own that's MVL, and some big corporation out there has another program. Now we're talking about the extension. We're not talking about the program here. If they have the program with the file extension MVL as well, then I cannot get in trouble for using the MVL because it's not regulated. What is protected is the source code that makes that corporation's program, specific program. So if I actually infringed upon their source code, then I will be more than likely facing a very, very probably more than likely I'll probably get sued. And so, but not for the file extension. The file extensions, they are not regulated. And again, the link to this case is right over here, and it will be provided to everyone at the end of this presentation. Global file formats and extensions. So in older operating systems, we're talking about Microsoft 8.3 file format environments, which were known as MS-DOS. They allowed a total of 46,656 possible unique extensions. And again, we're talking about these characters. But with the introduction of and modernization of technology, we are actually now introducing 64-bit systems, 128-bit systems, and in the future, more than likely, we are going to see 256-bit systems and higher. It's just a matter of time. And with the amazing and wonderful part about technology evolving is it will also allow operating systems to basically address or contain billions of combinations and ranges for these file extensions. So now I can probably put like Manuel Villalpando for a file extension, and if there's another person named Manuel Villalpando, well, it's and that may probably change the legalities in the future too. Who knows? But at this moment, if that other Manuel Villalpando actually puts the file extension Manuel Villalpando, then they're okay, because the file extensions are not again, they're not regulating. The source code is though. But again, the legalities are always fluid, and they're always changing the definitions of what is legal and what is not legal. So right now, as of right now, again, going back to that case study that I showed you, they are not regulated. The file extensions are not regulating. So how many file formats are there in the world? Right now, there is an unknown number of and we should talk file extensions really, because as far as programs are available, and even programs, because if you actually travel abroad, you're going to see that not all of the most popular software applications that we use here in the United States happen to be or will be the most popular software applications out there in the other countries. So I guess to a certain degree, we are at an unknown number of formats out there, and there are literally hundreds of software applications to and for in each and every business industry, and actually pretty much for every industry that you can think of. There's literally programs designed to address topics and concerns in those areas. But we are in a graphic design class, and so we are going to narrow our topics into the graphic design industry or the graphics industry. And I think I put a link here somewhere. Let me see if I can find it somewhere around here. Oh, maybe it's on another slide, but according to the source that I found, talk that file formats are in the graphics industry excuse me, they're narrowed to color palettes, color management, raster graphics, vector graphics, 3D graphics, and there are approximately 195 commonly known file types or file extensions. And I believe that where I got this information was over in on Wikipedia, but I'm not too exactly sure. But it's pretty interesting because I do believe that there's more than 195. But again, they do mention that these are just the common file extensions, or the most popular ones. I wanna say. One of the interesting parts and that I found was the National Archives is actually the place that here in the United States they preserve and they archive archaic file formats. And here's the link in case some of you may want to go and do more research here. So what did the NARA preserve, or what do they preserve? And they actually addressed reformatting approaches primarily kind of like in the middle of the 20th century to or towards the end as well, we transitioned from a lot of older analog technology, and we started going into the digital age. And so with that, we had to learn how to preserve a lot of the information that we have had in storage from the past, and this included like aerial film negatives and positives, aerial prints, objects and artifacts, audio recordings, film output from motion picture film reversal, negatives and prints. Uh, One of the courses that I found very interesting was uh, the course on Mr. Jason Hoppe. Excuse me if I don't pronounce it correct, but here's the link to his class, and I will be taking this course because there's about a 1 to 2 minute introductory presentation if you actually go to his link, and it's very fascinating when he starts talking about some of these older programs that are no longer available, especially in in the design side. And so it's kind of funny to kind of like hear somebody else remember about how frustrating it was to work with DOS, and how some of the programs weren't compatible with each other. So we have actually transitioned from an era or a few decades that were just complete headaches into. We're still not in the perfect arena just yet, but we are getting there, and I do believe, and I'm more than sure that in the future we will see um, many software application programs becoming more collaborative with each other and making it easier for students as well. So if you ever get an opportunity and have some time, go to Mr. Jason Hoppe's video on the history of file formats. One of the fascinating places where you can actually get a lot of information that a lot of people are not too familiar with or aware about is the World Wide Web Consortium. Now, the World Wide Web Consortium is an international community where member organizations uh, they have a full-time staff, and the public work together to develop web standards that these individuals are being led by the inventor of the web, the World Wide Web himself, Tim Berners-Lee, and I believe now it's the CEO, Jeff. And the W3C is fascinating because they were, or they should be the ones who are actually coming up with web standards, and it really fascinates me to see and understand the how we have transitioned in simple web standards. We're talking about maybe from the 90s all the way to present day, and even though we have evolved better in technology, some code has not evolved as much, and then some of it has gotten more complex. Um, it's a fascinating world, but it's one of these areas where you really need to pay attention to what's going on in the digital world. And the World Wide Web Consortium is a fascinating place for you to actually dive in and learn a lot of good information. One of the articles that I found on the World Wide Web Consortium was the secret origin of the SVG. For those of you that are not familiar with the SVG file, or what an SVG file is a scalable vectors graphics file. And I'm not gonna go into it, but if you want to actually go and have a little something to read about the how the SVG came about, here's the link, and you'll be fascinated with the information that's there. Uh, and from well, I will go into it a little bit, because one of the things that I found out is that I guess the SVG, from all the planning that they had going on, the original developers, at the end of the day, they say, well, let's scrap everything, and they went with something completely different from what they had planned. It's a funny story. If you read it, it's worth your time. This concludes my file formats presentation, and one of the interesting uh, I guess illustrations that I found from Digital Trike was this image, and over here it's really small, so I'm gonna click on the link. But if you notice that in this the illustration here is called the evolution of technology and its impact on the development of social businesses, and and it goes from 1960s to 2010. So obviously we're missing another a good decade here, but according to but it's pretty accurate, because as far as what it talks about, it's like it says, like, the company is king, but a benevolent king, good focus on customer satisfaction, but customers have few options. Communications make global business difficult, and customers make geographic based decisions. And that's really true. In the 1960s, I wasn't there. I was born in 73, but I do remember the impacts of this generation impacting this one and so forth. And so um, it's very fascinating to see kind of like how technology has really improved our life, but uh, it's gonna get better. It's really gonna get better, and I'm really excited, especially with um, artificial intelligence coming in, virtual reality, and all these technologies that are soon to come out, and just make a lot of industries much more funner and more productive. So again, take a look at the Digital Trike link over here when you get a chance, and read the illustration that they have on the evolution of technology. And here's the links for those of you that are interested in getting the information, or seeing where I got the information from. This is all the links, and I know that um, you're gonna have a video on this. So if you want to just um, pause the video and write down the links, then just go ahead and pause the video. Uh, what I'll try to do too as well is, on the description, I'll put the resources for the file formats, and that way maybe it'll be easier to just copy and paste from the description in the video. Again, thank you everybody, and again, this is Manuel Villalpando, and I do hope that everybody enjoyed my presentation on file formats. Thank you.